All right, here we go. All right, y'all, good evening. Welcome to Technique Tuesday. So excited to be here with you this evening. Make sure you can hear me there. I'll start again because my Facebook is being really glitchy today. Didn't want me to go live. So, hey, Vicky, can you let me know if you can hear me? And if you're seeing the video, things got really glitchy and Facebook did not want me to go live, saying I didn't have the appropriate permission. So I don't know what that was about. Lasted for a couple of minutes, but I think I'm here. I see the video on screen. Just made sure you could hear me. So I'm gonna assume all is well, and I'll go ahead and get started. Okay, great, thank you. All right, so within the last couple of weeks, hopefully you have seen some posts from me where I've been just playing around with watercoloring. And the first project that I did that I was super proud of was using the Layers of Beauty masks, as well as just watercoloring, as I said. So I just got an order in the other day to prepare for the class. And so I ordered the citrus blooms. I didn't have this at first. I had attended a retreat where we were making takes using the citrus blooms, and then I was inspired to do a class with it. So what happened there is, after I opened my box to start playing with it and to start planning for the class, all right, well, you know, I got obsessed with this citrus blooms. And so what came out of that was this little card here that I am just so stinking proud of, and I made this one. Both of these are going to be a part of the card kit. I made our order today, so everything will hopefully get back to us soon. But I'm going to recreate this one, but instead of using the watercolors, we are going to use some blends, because in that kit for the class, and Vicky, I believe you're taking this class with me, it includes the blends. So I thought we would play around with the blends again tonight instead of the watercolor. But y'all, I had so much fun with the watercoloring for this. So I embossed the oranges, the little bunch of oranges. I embossed it first in white. I'm using Fluid 100 watercolor paper, or watercolor paper. That's what I'm trying to say. Fluid 100 watercolor paper. And then I did the same thing I did with the Layers of Beauty bundle, in which I just kind of used my water brush to apply water to the image first, or to the paper first, and then picked up some of that color and just literally started shading. I would just layer on color, spread it out, give it a chance to dry a little bit. If I wanted to go back, I'd do that too. Hey, there's Avelda. And then kind of stop where I wanted to highlight, right? So I totally just fell in love with this one as well. So I was supposed to be making our samples for class. So we are going to make these two cards as a part of the class. This one I'm going to recreate tonight, so pay attention to this. And it's going to be easy enough. We're going to let the paper do the work, but the coloring as well. But the design for this is in our catalog. It is one of the sketches. So remember, I drew your attention to the sketches, the card sketches, the card maps. Let's see. Oh, here we are. I marked it and it's looking right all over it. Tonight, I'm going to be doing this one. So it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth one on the top row. And so I put a little note here for the dimensions for the designer series paper that I chose for this. And I did a little bit of different arrangement, especially for this bottom one. And instead of a circle, I'm choosing to use the cluster of oranges instead of a circle. So yeah, and I added the sentiment, of course. So change it up a little bit, but remember your card sketches, or card maps as they're sometimes called, the whole purpose is to give you an idea to get you started on a design. So that's what I'm going to do tonight, but instead of doing the watercoloring, I am going to use blends because that's what we're going to use in the class. This is one I made because I went ahead and stamped and embossed this single image, but I love this paper. Look at this paper. So this is a little pocket card, and we'll use this to kind of write the sentiment inside or continue to do some stamping. But this little card fits right here in that pocket. So these two will definitely be a part of the class that's coming up for June. As I said, I've made our order today. And this is the other one, but I'm going to recreate this one tonight. So excited about this. I really, really like this, this particular set as well. I think it's the line art imaging is what I'm really excited about. And I don't know what it is, but I've been on a kick, as I said, about coloring. I don't ask me what it is. I go through these cycles about coloring. So sometimes it's about the blends. Well, this time it was really about the watercoloring for the last couple of weeks, just because I think maybe I did so well at it and I was surprised by it. So I don't know. We'll see. Okay, I'm going to leave this for the inside, but again, our pieces of designer series paper, and remember, with the card kit you will get half of a package of designer series paper, and I'm cutting that to 6 by 12, so you'll end up, you saw it in my notebook, your paper will be cut like this for the designer series paper. Just as a reminder, if you have the bundle, or if you want the bundle and you don't have it yet, this is a good time to add on the bundle because there is a sale on all die and stamp bundles. But I wanted to show you this in case you hadn't figured it out or haven't played around with this yet. This particular die fits the singular kind of orange cluster there, and then this is the big one, and it fits here. I love when Stampin' Up does this, where they have the dies fitting perfectly something in the paper. I absolutely love that. So again, if you're thinking about it, if you're not sure, this might just tip you on over. I absolutely love it. It's also with this kind of paper where the dies match. I go ahead and buy several packs because when it typically retires, I want to be able to use it. But of course, you can use it on your images as well. All right. Glad you could join us, Mary. All right. So not just the stamped images, but also your images here on your paper. All right. I've been too busy coloring to cut out my paper, as you probably have noticed. Way too busy coloring. All right, so let's go ahead and get started for tonight because I wanted to show you just some basic techniques for coloring again with your blends. I don't think I've had blends out in a while, not like I have before. When you get your paper or your class kit, I'm also going to have the PDF with instructions. So the instructions will have dimensions for you. Again, this card that I'm making tonight is right here. I'm going to use this card sketch because I want you to get used to playing around with these card sketches as a way to inspire some designs on your own. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So 2.5 by 1.5 inch rectangles. And I decided to use the blue side facing up. I wanted that to be featured. Okay, so let's go ahead and start gluing these down. I can go ahead and do that. The one thing I did differently, as you notice, maybe this last piece right here was kind of overlapping the circle. I didn't want that to happen because I wanted to add the sentiment. So that was just a decision I made. Okay, so let's see, where's my glue? There we go. Let's go ahead and start putting this down. Another thing I hope you noticed is that these little rectangular designer series paper pieces are kind of staggered. So the two bottom pieces kind of, or the top and the bottom piece kind of go in. This one juts out a little bit because we have our centerpiece right there at the top. Okay, so I'm going to slide this one over just a hair, have more on that little margin to the right there. I'm going to Put this one in the middle, and I chose to put this little tile looking one in the middle because these two, even though the patterns are different, they're similar in that they're both black or blue and white with a somewhat similar pattern. So I didn't want to put those two close together. Okay, I think I have my rectangles touching. You can, you don't have to. Okay, and I can go ahead and glue down the last one. If you haven't tried these sketches before, you may have noticed how, or if you have tried them, hopefully you've noticed how easy they are. So with the right paper, you can quickly put together a rather stunning card. And that's something that I always like and appreciate. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to set this aside for a moment and let's start the fun part. Let's start the stamping part. I have one that I played with, but I don't want to show you yet. I want to make this with you tonight. I'm going to do the singular one, I believe, tonight. So when you get this kit from me, your card kit, I am going to cut out those images from the paper that match this in case you don't have the stamp. You will still be able to use this design. But again, if you want to add on the bundle to an order, you're welcome to do so. And then you'll have, you'll get an extra 10% off. So remember that bundles are already 10% off. Well, this promotion that we have going on, you get an additional 10% off of stamp and die bundles. So if you're like, oh, I really enjoy playing with this one, don't let this particular promotion pass you by. And I believe it's through the month of June, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, in your class kit, you're also going to get pumpkin pie, daffodil delight, and you're supposed to also get, and I ordered them, old olive blends. So they come in a pair. I have messed up my light old olive, so I only have one of those. But in the class that I took, or the retreat that I attended, we used this mossy meadow. For me, mossy meadow is a little dark, but it does match some of the shades of green in the paper. But I just wanted to share with you that yours will be old olive. But in tonight's technique, as I'm coloring, I'm also going to add pencils. So in your class kit, you won't have the pencils, but perhaps you took a class with me before. I had a class last summer in which you received a pack of pencils, watercolor pencils, with the kit. I think we were working on that Let It Rain or Playing in the Rain bundle. So you can still recreate this project that I'm going to make with you tonight if you have your pack of pencils. This was the Brights collection. I know there's a new collection of watercolor pencils with some, retired colors taken out, maybe some new colors or shades added in. I'm still using my old one. So these three colors are still in there. I'm going to use them. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, let's do some of the yellow. I'm going to start with my Daffodil Delight. And when I am working with smaller images or narrowed images, I like to just use my pointy tip because I can control where my color is going a little bit better than if I was using the broad brush tip. Okay, so while I have it out, I'm just going to do all of the flowers or the blooms for the orange plant in Daffodil Delight. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've never seen an orange tree. Actually, I have. I take that back. When I went to Costa Rica, I think that was in 2011, the family I stayed with did have an orange tree in the back of the yard. I can't believe that I forgot that because I got sick from eating the fresh oranges off that tree. That was not a good idea. But anyway, it was lovely having so much fresh fruit around me, fresh produce. So, but I didn't see the blooms. I only saw the fruit, like the oranges. I don't recall seeing the blooms or the flowers. So I was like, oh, well, who knew that this was the color of the blooms and blossoms on a citrus tree. And so I took my cue, if you will, I took my cue from the paper to figure out what to color or what color to make these little blooms and blossoms. All right. I went back in on some of those little accented parts and used the dark Daffodil Delight. I think I'm going to go ahead. Let's do some leaves. And again, I have misplaced, have no idea. I think I've just messed it up, my Old Olive Light. So this is my Old Olive Dark. So any shading that I'm going to do with this, and I'm going to be able to do so. I want you to watch what happens when we add watercolor pencils to our blends. Okay, notice I'm being really careful when I get into those tight spaces because I'm using the brush, and you want to use the side of your brush as much as you can. You don't want to color with the tip of the brush side. That's a surefire way of ruining your markers. Ask me how I know. I made the mistake one time of taking markers to my Crowsdale class, and by the time we finished, it was like, what just happened? So that's another reason I wanted to include in your kits your own markers, your own blends that you can use however you want. I've just learned that they don't last very well when a larger group of people are repeatedly coloring with them. So I'm going back where I just kind of abandoned those smaller spots and places to use the narrow end just because I can control it a lot better. Okay. I think the other thing that has gotten my attention with coloring is, of course, for me at least, it is so soothing and relaxing. So I'll just have the TV going in the background or some music or even a video, another video on my computer as I'm watching and or as I'm coloring. And so I just kind of get lost in it for a little while. So maybe that's what happened. But I know you were like, oh, okay, she's on a kick. She's on a watercolor kick, because it's true. I was so proud of myself. I had to pat myself on the back with that. I was so tickled with the way that turned out. I know that Vicky is a watercolor artist, and I admire folks who are able to do that. I don't consider myself a true watercolor artist, but yeah, this was fun. I really enjoyed it. And I didn't have to draw the images. That was the other bonus, because I cannot draw. Okay. All right, I'm putting down light pumpkin pie. How appropriate with this nice bright orange color. Light pumpkin pie. Onto the orange. And again, I'm trying to use the side of my blend as much as possible instead of the tip of the brush. They just don't last as long when you do that. Okay. I'd love to know what you all have been making lately. Feel free to drop in the chat some projects that you've been working on. What was the occasion? And I don't know if you can get your hands on it, but would love to see a picture of it as well. But what have you been working on? All right, I'm going to come back in with my dark pumpkin pie. And you see where we have sort of like this texture on the orange. I'm just going to do this little stippling technique that I've seen some artists doing with the blends. Now I've seen folks coloring entire images with this, like literally layering on different colors using this dot, dot, dot technique. I'm not going to do that tonight because I don't care to do that with an orange, but I thought it was cool. Gives some sense of texture here. And I'm not going to go back over it with the light pumpkin pie. I'm just going to leave that alone. So here's what I wanted to play around with tonight. I'm going to use the watercolor pencils to go back in and add some depth to the images here. And what I did with the yellow was, or the yellow blossoms, I wanted to go back in and add a little bit of orange, okay? Because remember, these flowers, eventually turn into the fruit, right? This is how we get the fruit. So I wanted to incorporate some of that into the little flower. The centers are a little bit darker, or at least I wanted to make mine. So my point with sharing this one is, or this technique is, don't be afraid to mix your medium. So I started out with blends, but I'm coming back in shading with watercolor pencils. I learned that from Elisa Tilsner. I believe Elisa is in Australia, and she has this group called Blends and Beyond. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but she is a fantastic graphic artist. Oh my goodness, I love her work. I think I may have shown you of an ice cream cone, a dollop of ice cream that she did a class on, that I took her class. And so she was the first one to kind of hit me to this idea of, you know what, we can mix the blends or blending with the blends markers as well as the watercolor pencils. What's wrong with that? So I'm going back in with the Daffodil Delight, this yellow, to kind of smooth out that orange that I added. So I don't want the lines to necessarily show. I truly want a blend. Okay, and it is very different from just coloring with the pencils automatically. I absolutely love that. So, oh, awesome. I'm glad to hear that, Mary. Mary said that she's been working on her paper pumpkin kit. And yes, so speaking of paper pumpkin kits, if you are a subscriber with Paper Pumpkin, you may have noticed, or maybe you haven't, so I'll let you know. But there's this new add-on that you can get with the quarterly Paper Pumpkins. So the add-ons are these little sets of dies. Here's one from the last quarter. Let's see. I actually haven't even used it yet, but I think it's so cute. It has thanks. It has a little element where you can stamp a sentiment if you want, or a picture, doesn't matter. And it has these butterflies. The add-ons are only available to Paper Pumpkin subscribers. Well, not only are they just nice to have in your stash, this is all that comes in this particular one, so only 4 pieces, but they coordinate in some way with the Paper Pumpkin kits for that quarter. So these 4 pieces coordinated with the last Paper Pumpkin kits from, let's see, what is this, June, so January, February, March, so April, May, and June Paper Pumpkin kits, I believe. The new Paper Pumpkin kit that's coming out in June has another set of add-on dies that are going to go with them. These fit perfectly in the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss, so you don't have to have the big humming one to make these fit. You don't have to. They fit in the smaller one. And those 2 Stampin' Cut and Emboss machines are also an additional 10% off during this promotion that I was telling you about. So I'm glad you said something about Paper Pumpkin kits, Mary, because I wanted to share that. I didn't know if you all had known that. So yeah, yes, it did come out today. I'm glad to hear you got your email. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to lighten up this orange a little bit. Okay, so remember I colored in with the light pumpkin pie, and then I just added those little stippled dots on the little texture part of the orange. And I don't know if lighten it is the right word, but I want you to watch what happens. So I'm left-handed, so sometimes I know I cover up my work, but I want you to watch what happens to that orangey color when I start adding the Daffodil Delight watercolor pencil. Feel free to tap in or type into the chat, the comments, what you notice happening here. There are a couple of things that got my attention when I was playing around with this for today, but I want to see what you notice as I'm coloring in or layering on the Daffodil Delight onto the blend that is pumpkin pie. Love to know what you noticed. Hope you can see it well enough to notice something. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. All right. What do you notice happening? Really like this. I'm going to use my lifter to get that little edge there that I started getting out of the lines. All right, I think I'm satisfied there. Concentrate a little bit more right here. But yeah, there we go. And then for my leaves, remember that was the dark old olive. I want you to watch what happens as I go back in and shade over the blend. So this time I'm using sort of a tone on tone, whereas with the orange I used Daffodil Delight over Pumpkin Pie Blend. And I hope you can notice a little bit of change. Sometimes I know it's hard to see these subtle little changes, but it's quite stunning in person. So I want you to play around with it and try it, especially when you get, I think everybody on tonight is in the class, yeah. So I want you all to try this when you get your class kits, and if you have this kind of line art. Notice that I purposely skipped this part because look at what's happening here. I'm getting a deeper shade of the green, and so that's the contrast that I really wanted to show by layering on these colors with the watercolor pencils over top of the blends. I want that effect of shading. I can achieve some shading with my markers, absolutely, but I just wanted to play around with this, and I think I like what I see. I like what's happening here. So on the orange, it turned it a little bit of a yellow tone. Did you see that? And there's a little highlight going on there. I really like what happened to the orange, and I like the shading effect that I'm getting from the old olive leaves. I really do like this. It's a nice contrast. Yeah, I never really think about mixing these, but as I said, Elisa Tilsner kind of convinced me that I should play around with that. Okay, and especially came in handy because I'm out of my old olive marker, or the light color of the marker. There we go. All right, now where is my brown? Oh, gotta find my brown. I think I'm gonna reach for another. I want to do my stem here. Pencils are across the room, so I'll just use one of my other blends to color in the stem. Okay. All right, give me a moment to cut this out really quickly. And this is the one I did earlier. Didn't do the brown, but as I was playing around with it, this is the one I made. Just to see what effect I would get. Okay. All right. Let's switch out here for a second. I'm going to zoom back out. So I think this is like right on top of it. All right. Cut this out really fast using my dies. Gotta love these dies. And again, I'm just using the single one this time. My single little fruit here. Get my tape so it won't move on me. Just realized I forgot to add on my some replacement plates These have been well loved, as you can see. And I believe this one is going to break in half very soon. I do believe it's going to happen. So I forgot. I don't have to replace them very often, so I keep forgetting to add it. Okay. And now I'm ready to put it all together. Put the card all together. Okay, there we go. There's my cutout. I'll cut out the other one later. Okay, so of course, this little bunch begs for dimensionals. Can't put that flat. It's begging for dimensionals. So let's put some dimensionals behind this. And I'm definitely going to be generous with my dimensionals here. Okay. And I'll put this here. So. And it looks like I chose just checking in. Maybe I'll do hello this time. So here are the other stamps in this set. Now I will be the first to admit I don't usually do very well with these clean mount stamps for words because it's hard for me to tell exactly where I should be stamping. If I'm going upside down or down the heel or up the heel, it's hard for me to tell. Whereas with the photopolymer, of course, with the photopolymer, it's easy to tell. So yes, Mary, if you're talking about the blends, let's see, let me use this one. The blends do just on the back, but they don't get off or bleed off on your surface. It won't go on your table. I was coloring on top of this grid paper. That's not it, but notice that there's nothing there from where I was coloring. So it pretty much stops right here on the back of whatever the paper is you're coloring. And for me, that's usually basic white, but it won't get on the furniture or anything like that. It kind of stops right there. Okay. That's the blends. Of course, your other markers don't tend to do that. I hope hello fits. I just realized it may not fit. Might be too tall. Oh, there we go. That wasn't bad. Your watercolor pencils don't bleed, of course. And your regular markers don't bleed, but the blends most certainly do. The alcohol-based markers do bleed through your paper. They just don't go all the way through the paper. They don't get on your surfaces, if that makes sense. Okay. And let's see. Make that a little fancy on that end too, maybe. Let's glue that on. I think I did just glue this flat because I kind of popped it up already on the card. And this is a scrap from the little rectangles I was cutting earlier. It's just a scrap. Some call it paper hoarding. I call it reuse. Might as well reuse it. Okay. So I'm just getting a little frame here. Pulling in that paper I've already used. Here we go. Maybe I do need a dimensional for this because this bunch is much smaller than my watercolor bunch. So I think I will. After all, no such thing as too many dimensionals, remember. Here we go. All right, the last thing I want to do is put a little bit of twine. And I'll include this. I think I have enough to include this in your kits as well for this card. With twine or ribbon, I like to use clear glue dots. They stick so much better to fabric kind of things. So I get particular about that. Clear glue dots for those. And just put that on the little stem and we're done. Now, I do want to decorate my inside here. So before I glue it down, of course, we do all of our stamping before we glue, just in case. And I think I am going to use the big bunch on that one. Let's see. Let me get my block. I believe on my sample, I used a strip of the designer series paper. Again, something that was just left over. And I didn't want to throw it away. I will always find something to do with it. Okay. So, in case I have another strip for the bottom, I will put this little piece at the top, kind of coming off the page. There we go. So it's a continuation of the front of the card, basically. Kind of draping over the corner. And another excuse for me to color. Any excuse to color, I'll take it. I'm just putting my pieces back because this is how I lose stuff. When I don't put things back where they belong. And then as I try to clean up, stuff just gets thrown and I forget it, and then boom, we got a problem. I'm having a fit because I've lost it. Okay? So, going in with my light pumpkin pie. The only thing I regret about this bundle is that it does not have a die for the lemons. Did you notice that the paper also has bunches of lemons, like from a lemon tree? Now, that's not to say you can't cut it out. You can't fussy cut it. You certainly can. I'm not the biggest fan of fussy cutting. I think you know that about me already, but you can. You can fussy cut it. And I'm trying to see, there was a card somewhere where I did just that. I don't know what I did with it. I've been making a lot. I think I've been so tickled also with these projects because I have been really using up my paper. I am determined to cut my paper, use my paper. I'll show it to you in a moment, but I have to stop hoarding paper, y'all. That's what this is about. Stop hoarding the paper. Like, it's there for a reason, right? So I'm going to do some shading now with the dark pumpkin pie. And remember, you're going to get this as a part of your kit. You're going to get the blends duos with your kit. All right. And I am just going to kind of concentrate on the edges, around the edges of the orange this time, and leave sort of a shiny spot in the middle. Now that looks rather harsh, right? That's kind of harsh. So that's when I come back with my light blend. Oh, I'm glad you like it, Vicki. It's definitely fun. This is a fun one to play with. So I'm going back in with my light pumpkin pie to kind of, quote unquote, erase away those harsh lines without erasing the color. See how it's lightening up, blending it? And I still have that little middle that's lighter than the surrounding edges. So that's how you do your blends. That's how you do your blending with the blends, I should say. It's kind of melting away those harsh lines that I put in. See that? All right. Okay, let's do the flowers. Let's see, light daffodil delight. I have noticed that when I have brand new blends, and that pumpkin pie is a brand new one, sometimes I have to stay from coloring right at the edges because it'll bleed over a little bit. Notice how that orange started blending into my yellow flower. They're just really, really new. Very juicy. When I went to that event, that's what we also had in our packet. So I have to credit Hattie and Susan, Hattie Walker, and I'm blanking on Susan's name, for this idea. It was a demonstrator event. It was a retreat in South Carolina a few weeks ago, and it was in May, so more than a few weeks ago. Yes, Zavelda, you need this bundle. Definitely get it before this bundle deal is over with. I have so many regrets sometimes when we have these promotions, and I'm like, I don't need it. And then it's like, I end up getting it, and I miss the promotion. But yes, you need this bundle. I'm your resident enabler here. And also, this is just very different from flowers, right? It still has some floral elements to it, but it's not our typical flowers. But admittedly, it's the designer series paper that I fell in love with first. And then that quickly became more about, or this set became more about my coloring opportunities. So I appreciate you indulging me for a couple of weeks as I've been on this coloring kick, because it has definitely been a kick. I've just had so much fun just trying to see what I can come up with. That's been the fun part. And also, y'all, it made me slow down a little bit, if I'm being honest. It made me slow down and try something that was out of my wheelhouse. I frayed my brush edge. See? I frayed it a little bit, and that's why I'm like, okay, it's getting wild, but let me go back. Now, when I say color on the side with the brush tip, while that's true for the brush tip, for this pointy edge, it doesn't really matter. You can go ahead and use the tip of that, and it'll be fine, okay? Okay. And as I said, I don't have the light one because I've probably destroyed it, or it was already dry maybe. I'm going to see what happens. Let's just see what happens when I add light mossy meadow. Can't hurt anything. But these are two different colors. They're still both green, but I'm getting a little shading effect there. Okay, not too bad. I wasn't sure what to expect because they are two different colors. So I mixed all sorts of stuff up tonight. Gotta just play with it sometimes to see what you get. I'm just trying to get rid of those stark lines where they started melding together. There we go. You'll never know if you don't play with it, right? So take that chance. That's I pulled out some of that watercolor paper just to see what would happen, right? And let's see if I have any scratch paper left or remnants left that I can cut off a little bit. Oh, here it is. It must have fallen out. So whenever I'm cutting my dimensions or these little rectangles, you're going to always have something left over. Don't throw it away. Just put it at the bottom, okay? We can decorate this inside. Let's make a habit out of that too. So I used to tell you no naked envelopes, and while that's true, let's pay some attention to the middle or the inside as well. My only caution is you want to make sure you leave yourself some space to write a little note and at least sign your name. So don't go too overboard. But yeah, it's like they get to see the beautiful outside of the card front, and then just imagine the surprise when, oh my, the beauty continues in the middle. So let's see what it looks like when we do that. I'll put a little bit of glue here. And we have ourselves a nicely finished card. Is this Night of Navy not just the best? Isn't this beautiful? I love it in contrast to these citrus colors. It is so Mediterranean. I get the name now. It's like very Mediterranean look there. Oops, I did that crooked. Okay, I was able to straighten my little strip up a little bit. That's the beauty of the liquid glue. All right, now, last but not least, I'm gonna add some embellishments. Gonna get some of these as well in your class packet. Kind of proud of this class, y'all. It's been a while since I've done a class, so I had to come on out. Like, let's make it good, right? All right. So I'm gonna use my rule of 3. Notice the different sizes on these embellishments too. Different sizes. And let's do one up here. And a little loosely configured triangle there. All right, how about that? I'm just going to show you one of the cards with the lemons that we fussy cut. And like I said, I am not much on fussy cutting, but it works. So here's one. You can just showing you how you can still use the lemon bunch. Even that's from your paper, so this will be a part of your paper. I don't think I'm gonna do, I don't know yet. I still have a couple cards to design for your class, so I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. But anyway, you can still cut this. You can fussy cut the lemons because there are no dies for the lemons, but it still makes a pretty card. So I just wanted to show you that that piece. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this card because it was certainly fun to make it. And fun to figure out my different coloring tools to use. So I've just been so tickled with this. Very tickled with what I've been able to come up with here. Okay, so for those of you who may have joined us a little bit later, this is one of the cards you're going to make. How stunning is that paper? It's a little pocket card. I really wanted to show off this paper. Yes, Avelda, the embellishments are going to come in that card kit as well. And I made your order today, so hopefully they'll get it and start picking it. I did it before 5, so hopefully we'll get our stuff in and I can start sending out the kits. So yeah, this is a little pocket card, all of the beautiful orange and yellows. We're going to do a version of this. You'll have to do your own watercoloring, but you'll have the markers to do the coloring otherwise. So yeah, this is really nice. I am debating, I think this one might be one as well. So this is a slimline card. This is one that we made. It gives you a chance to utilize the die, and so I can also die cut some of these bunches out of that paper for you. I'll cut it out of your paper if you want some. If you're not going to get the bundle for yourself, I can do that for you. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm down to the 5th one. I got to figure out the 5th one, and maybe it'll be something similar to this, because this is the die. The inlay as well as this little frame is a part of the dies that go with this bundle. So whenever I get the bundle, and especially in a class, I try to use every single thing possible. See, these are 3 different dies here. So maybe we'll do this one as our 5th one. The only thing is I don't have like these little ferns, the little the embossing folder. I don't have that. I have another type of embossing folder. I don't know if it'll matter. But yeah, is this not the cutest thing ever? I just love it. It's so citrusy and tropical, but without flowers. This is a way of kind of getting out of our flower box. Although, layers of beauty, can't be mad about it. But tonight is about citrus blooms, or citrus blooms is what this is called. Okay, so if you're interested in this bundle, don't forget the special that's going on, and it's only stamps and dies, so don't miss out on that. And as soon as I get the kits in, I will get them prepared. For those of you who are going to do the mobile class with me, you'll have a PDF to go along with the class with all the dimensions, so you can continue to create on your own beyond this class using different things that you have in your stash even. Okay. All right. So yes, it does, Mary. I can't wait for you to get your kit. It definitely makes a difference. So thank you all for joining me. It was so cool to hang out with you on another Technique Tuesday. I hope you have a good rest of your week. It's definitely been fun for me to hang out with you. All righty. Good night.